him that way too.
Who are
But
the
Dad
O'Briens?
he was an entrepreneur, there's no question about it.
Who are the O'Briens?
They were relatives
They were-
from Kentucky.
They were shirt-tail relatives that made a big success of their lives.
What kind of business were they in?
Women's lingerie.
Lorraine lingerie?
Oh, I've heard of Lorraine, I think, because of you.
Big.
Yeah.
You've mentioned it.
They moved up to Chicago in about 1912. Their dad died.
Well, one of them moved to Chicago. Les moved up here. They
Oh.
didn't. Rest of them stayed down home. He was the oldest.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
He came to Chicago and he went to Lakeview High School. And then he gradually sent for the rest of the family.
yeah. And I think they all lived together at Chicago and State Street.
Where?
Chicago and State Street.
Chicago and State, huh? Really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I didn't know
So
that
they
either.
were in a business of lingerie,
Well, they did
making
start-
lingerie, or?
I think I heard the story that they initially started making aprons for Western Union.
And they
Ladies'
had
bloomers.
assist. They had
They
Ladies'
cut
assistants.
bloomers.
they cut the aprons in their house
Okay.
with a bolt of denim and just cutting that denim into aprons. And some
There were
kind of
four-
similar to the way we started coverall, I
There were
guess.
4 boys and a girl.
Yeah, right.
And her idea must have been the women's lingerie.
I wonder. I
It
bet.
evolved to that, but first they were making cotton bloomers. In those days, ladies wore bloomers that had elastic under the knee
Yes.
and then had a drawstring at the
Yeah.
waist, and that was their start.
And they made
But they made a lot
They
of
made
money.
a lot of money.
Really?
And they ended up living in Sauganash. And Sauganash in those days
Was like the Lake
was-
Forest
Yes.
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
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 It still is very nice, by the
Yeah,
way.
it is, nice
Yeah.
town. But they were extremely successful. I think they had like today they have about 5,000 employees or something like that.
Are they still in business?
I think so, yeah.
Mm.
I think one
Mm-hmm.
of the sons run, one
But
of
there
the,
were all the productions out of the country, I imagine.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
But Dad saw how they were living, and
Mhm.
I think he thought, I gotta start my own business.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like if there was ever anyone with a mission, it sounds like your dad had it. And he was going to figure it out
Yeah, he was.
one way or
He
another.
was an extremely hard worker.
And a very ingenious guy, too.
I like that.
And when we built the house, when we bought the house on Costner Avenue, it probably had 2 bedrooms maybe.
Well, of course, it was 2-story. There again, Dad's planning ahead. Erman Vern needed a place to live, so Dad bought a 2-story house with 2 apartments in it.
Yeah, the Irvin Vern lived behind the store where,
Vern's business was.
Oh, okay.
and that's really small. And then they started having kids, and so they moved upstairs on Costner Avenue, and Don and I, my dad tore a hole in the bedroom, his bedroom, and built a stairway down to the basement, and built a bedroom for Don and I.
Is this after you lived in the dining room?
Yes.
This is
Yes.
another
Okay.
girl.
They
This is a
graduated
different
to
house.
they graduated to a bedroom
To a basement.
in the basement.
What was
Right.
funny was when we moved to Northbrook and our boys wanted a bedroom in the basement, my Dick went, no.
And we lived next to the coal bin.
Very happy about it, right?
Yeah.
Was a wooden floor.
Thrilled to
wasn't
have
it?
your.
I don't remember if it was a wooden floor or not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said that, and then it was so damp down there that you couldn't raise your
Oh.
arms in the morning to put your
Yeah.
shirt on.
What?
Yeah, it was damp and cold down there. Don and you said, after a while you couldn't raise
And it
your
was
arms.
pretty near the railroad track.
Right across the street from the railroad track.
When we moved there, we the trains would go by and couldn't hear yourself talk until they were gone by.
And the coal ash was floating down. So if you were out in the street playing ball or anything, and the train went flying by, you stood there with your eyes shut until all the ash came down, and
Oh
then
my
you could start
God.
playing again.
I'm surprised you don't have more health issues.
But
I'll tell you, it's amazing to me, because not only do we have coal in the basement, what's that other stuff that's very dangerous?
Radon?
Asbestos?
Asbestos?
There's a lot of asbestos
Mhm.
down in the basement.
Oh my God.
yeah,
And of course radon, which nobody ever knew was sitting there, but
probably,
it was
probably
there.
radon, yeah.
They hadn't invented that
Wow.
But my recollection too about the train noise, after we'd been there about 3 months, we didn't even hear the noise,
Yeah,
didn't hear
that's
the
like
trains
us.
anymore.
Yeah, we loved the trains when we moved up to Clarence Avenue, because 2 blocks behind us was empty fields.
Uh,
And every time a train would come, we'd jump up and look at it. And then within 3 months, we ignored them completely.
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
I just can't imagine.
Things were so different then.
Yes.
And that's why Hans and Bob Ellsworth and Don Vath, we all have a good time talking about the old days.
Yeah.
Well, didn't you say something about you had a toy that was lead
Oh,
and
yeah.
that you poured your
Oh, yeah.
pieces each time?
Yeah, I think,
Oh, that's right, you could make your own toy soldiers or something like
yeah,
that, couldn't
right.
you?
Yeah,
Heat up the lead, pour it
Right.
into a mold.
Exactly.
As a toy.
As a
Yeah.
toy.
Yeah, when you think about how many disclosures we have now for lead.
Asbestos, coal. How'd we make it to
Well,
85?
we were talking one time over at Justin's about how happy we were when they came to patch the street, and they would pour tar. And before any cars would come by, we'd grab the tar and use it for chewing gum.
Oh, yeah.
We thought that
yeah.
was just great.
I
you
remember
know.
doing that,
And
yeah.
wonder how many
Justin said,
chemicals
"You
were in
did
that."
What?
How many chemicals were in
Yeah,
that?
I mean, you know, it's
Mm.
surprising we're all still alive.
Yeah, it sure is, yeah.
We did that.
Oh
yes.
my God. These are funny things because I can't even fathom.
Yeah.
Can't even fathom.
No,
Best up in our neighborhood, we used to dig tunnels in the spare lots, the vacant
Oh,
lots.
yeah.
Mhm.
We'd have tunnels like the Japanese did or something.
Yeah.
Well, we thought that was great fun, and I mean, if they had ever caved in on us, we would have been gone.
Oh my God.
Yeah, when I lived
I
on
don't know,
Roscoe
mother
Street
did.
when Dick was a little baby, there was a hill, kind of an empty lot with a little mound, we thought it was a hill, and we'd do the same thing you did, dig holes in the ground in that
Yeah.
place, and it's
Good memories.
good memories, yeah.
Lack of supervision.
I think that's what it was.
Well, whenever I drive down Irving Park and I come to what used to be the garbage dump at
Oh, yeah.
California and
Oh,
Irving.
yeah, where the park is now,
Yeah,
yeah.
in that beautiful park now.
Yeah.
And it would be a garbage dump and we'd play on the hills in the garbage dump.
You did?
Oh, my
Yeah,
God.
when we were at Our Lady of Mercy.
How could you handle the smell?
I don't think we noticed this. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's all what you get used to, I guess.
Oh my
It's right by the
gosh.
river.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another safe place to play.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think you guys can't bring up any more issues than you already have. I wonder how many things were at the
We got
dump.
other stories.
Well, you know, I think of Paul and Terry telling me they went down to the end of Charlemagne, and there was some lake there, or pond, or whatever, and they used to play around that and in it.
Oh my God.
Kids will find a
No,
place to
it-
play anywhere, won't
no.
they?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh.
They did when there was no television.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, or no iPhones.
iPhones.
Yeah,
Now, the kids spend most of their time.
yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
It's changed.
Well, and I think the environment
And
back
another
then.
thing, any games that kids have now, their parents are there watching them every minute. And our parents, I saw Don play basketball one time, didn't they?
Right.
Huh?
When he was, they didn't see him play in high school at all. He played 4 years of varsity basketball in high school, but
Never saw him.
They couldn't get down to St. Michael's at night,
Right.
although I could. But and then he played 2 years at Notre Dame, and they did see Notre Dame versus Wisconsin at the Chicago Stadium. That's the only time they ever saw him play basketball.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
But they talk about free-range kids, you know, and now people are so afraid to let their kids go. We used to go downtown to Chicago and that. I mean, when we
Yeah.
took the bus, you know, nobody thought
You would
twice
never do
about
that
it.
now.
How would you get down from your house?
There was a bus on the Northwest Highway that would go all the way down to the L train over near Edgewater, and then we'd take the
Oh.
subway down.
Oh, I see.
So it was a long trip.
It takes you to the Howard Street bus elevator line, huh?
Yes,
Mhm.
but it was a long way downtown.
Long trip,
Yeah, but we would go and do it.
Wow. Well, I think also the way that houses were, you were talking earlier about the width of lots
Yeah,
and that they were only 25 feet wide.
yeah.
So when you have a house, you're actually right next to your neighbor, whereas now the houses are not like that. Your neighbor doesn't know that you're coming and going
Yeah.
the way that they did then.
Oh, in the summertime, all the windows were open, so if your neighbors were having an argument, you knew all about it.
yeah, there was no such thing as air conditioning.
Oh my gosh,
That's why I'm
true.
pretty sure the cats had lived on the first floor at that time.
Yeah, that could be.
We could hear all their arguments
I don't know why they
in our
moved
house.
up to the second story.
Yeah.
Maybe they were hoping you wouldn't hear.
View was better up there.
Maybe the yelling wouldn't be noticed so much.
I'm sure Mrs. Katz had a strong opinion about everything.
Oh my.
That's funny. Yeah, but kids, you know, went and nobody's worried about you. You know, like when I was 5 years old, we lived in New England,
Yeah.
and my friend Jack, who lived across the street, and his sister, who was 2 years older, you know, she was 7, we'd go down to the Whalen Pool. And you went at noon, and it
Oh,
was
yeah.
4 cents, and you were there until 5 o'clock when the lifeguards closed the pool
Wow.
for dinner.
Yes.
And you came back.
Yeah,
I mean-
Whalen Pool, that was pretty exotic from our
Yes,
neighborhood. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah,
That was
that was,
really going up the scale.
Why would that be?
That was a very big,
compared to where we
nice
lived,
pool.
where your mother lived, that was ritzy.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. But they had changing rooms in there, and you had to take a shower before you went in the pool. And
Okay.
you had a basket that you put your things in, you know.
We would go, our swimming hole was the lake. We'd take the Montrose streetcar over to the end of the line and walk to the lake, right?
Yeah, right.
As in Lake Michigan?
Yeah,
Michigan.
Lake Michigan.
Okay.
The one time I went there, I was
Wow.
there, and there were orange peels floating in the water. Boy, that turned me up totally. I was used to
Oh.
pools.
I'm going back to Whalen
Yeah,
Pool.
right. And then Norwood Park Pool, even Norwood Park Pool
Oh, they had a pool too.
was built, but it had no circulation or heating. It was just they filled the pool with water. So on Tuesday, I mean, you could freeze yourself in there. It was
Oh,
just
yeah.
like Lake Michigan.
Just like Lake
And
Michigan,
by
yeah.
Saturday, it would have fur on the bottom because it would get whatever that is.
Where was Norwood Park Pool?
Right where Norwood Park,
Around the circle?
no, down there on Newcastle, at the bottom, bottom of the
Northwest
hill
Highway.
there,
yeah.
right, between, well, there's a train station and the tracks,
Yeah.
and then the park, Norwood Park. And there was a field house there, but right next to the field house was the pool.
I assume it was still there when I lived in
Oh, I
it.
think it's still there, but I think they've modernized it, you know, with the
I
filter
don't
and
think I-
heater.
I can't even remember.
They never
No,
had
I
that.
can't
I
even
don't think I
remember
ever
that
went
park.
swimming
Can
Well,
you?
we
there.
used to walk all the way there from
Can you
Clarence
remember it, Deb?
Avenue to
No.
go swimming.
Yeah.
I
remember
don't know
the-
distance.
The Danish retirement home up there at,
Well, that's up in, towards the town. This was probably 6 or 8 blocks
Oh.
south of that area.
oh, I see.
Yeah, it was
Uh-huh.
down where the field house was. Now Lynn would know because she used to go to the field house a lot
Yeah.
as a kid.
Hmm.
But, yeah, and Susan went there for dance lessons, didn't she, at the field house? Yeah, maybe Irma would remember because they probably took her for dance lessons before you and I got married.
I'm sure that Norwood Park, I must have known where that was at one
Yeah.
time, but I can't, no recollection.
There were tennis courts there, and then there was a big skating rink in the winter. It was, I think, ball fields in the summer, but then they.
I remember when we moved to New Circle, we all thought we were moving up in class, don't you, Dick?
Oh, yes.
Oh, you were, you moved to my
Yeah.
neighborhood. We didn't know we were that rich, but I guess we were. You know, it's a matter of where you are in the scale.
There again, Dad found that house in the classified ads.
Did he?
Yeah. Well, you know what happened? The government wanted to take over our Costner house.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because of the.
Was that the
Kennedy
highway?
Expressway.
because
Yeah.
of Kennedy, yeah.
Did you and Kay move in there as soon as they
No,
got it, or was that
no,
later?
we had our apartment.
Oh.
I was lucky enough to find an apartment in the New World newspaper.
Oh, yes.
I found an apartment at Hoyne and Grace Avenue. Boy, it was like finding gold.
Yeah, I forgot that you lived up there.
Yeah, we had a four-room apartment on the second floor of a lovely apartment building. I mean, it was like finding a treasure, you know. You've seen the places that we looked at before we got married, my gosh. Remember, we looked at one place that had the toilet was in the kitchen. And
Just where I need one.
there was one house that they had split in two to make two apartments out of one house with a glass door between the apartments. And, yeah, just, you know, terrible places.
Oh,
And then to find this ad in the New World newspaper, advertised 4 bedrooms, I want to know, you know, description, and I went by and looked at the building, I thought it was like a palace.
Do you recall what the rent was in those years?
I would guess somewhere around $50 a month.
Mm-hmm. That would be about it.
And it was walking distance to St. Benedict's Church.
Oh, okay.
And then we moved the laundry up to 3715 North Ashland, and so it was half a mile to the office.
Oh, that's
to work.
nice.
So it was
Well, when Pete and Bernadine bought the place on Circle,
yeah.
the house in the back was a small house and then like an open porch. And Pete decided that if they closed in that porch, you know, it like doubled the size of
Yeah.
the cottage. And I don't know if was he looking to have something for you and Kay or just, but I know they planned what they were gonna do and they did it on a weekend.
I really
The
think,
zoning
I think
people would
the
come and say,
idea was
Do they?
to build it for Kate and I, yeah.
But one weekend, he had everything like kind of ready to go, and all of a sudden, these walls went up, and suddenly it was there.
wow.
We got permission to
Fix the porch.
Fix the
fix up a
porch.
porch.
Yeah.
So we expanded the porch quite dramatically and put in a kitchen. And I remember one day the neighbor, we were out there working. We had the framework of the so-called porch up by this time. And our neighbor came by and said, you know, you folks you could turn this into a room, you know. And so I forget how we said, well, geez, that's a heck of an idea you got there, neighbor. So, but you remember the neighbor on the other side, across the alley, there's a man and a woman, or man and wife, I can't remember their name, but they were very suspicious of us when we moved in there.
Well, Norwood was a place where they
Yeah.
watched the zoning, you know,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would be something.
And they kept a very strict eye on us, but gradually we all won them over, so they became friends.
When you and Kay moved in there, was the upstairs accessible, or was that when you were gonna move in that you worked with your dad to build
think-
that stairway to the upstairs?
No, there was no upstairs.
When I moved in.
You had an upstairs?
Yeah,
Well, that's where we put the four kids.
The four kids
We were
lived up there.
married.
Where?
Yeah, Dad and I built a stairway up
You,
there.
leave it to you guys to figure.
It was a rainbow stairway, and I mean, really hard to negotiate.
Well, I'll be a
with
son of a
the
gun.
rate.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah.
And then when you left there, well, Lynn moved in there.
Yeah, Lynn moved in.
So, boy, that place really was a
Karen,
lifesaver. wasn't it?
Karen Cole was in it recently.
Oh, she was?
She was with a friend of hers, and they were in the neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
And Karen said, "Drive down the alley. My
Mhm.
folks used to live here."
Mm-hmm.
And as they were driving down the alley, there was a lady working there
I'll be darned.
doing something, and so Karen stopped and talked to her and said, "I used to live here."
Hmm.
And the lady said, "Would you like to go in and see it?" So she took her in to see the first floor. She was renting out the second floor, and that's where Karen lived, so she couldn't take her up there.
Oh, for crying
But
out
they
loud.
showed
Are you talking about the main house?
But
Yeah,
not
the main
house.
Cottage behind, we're
Mhm.
talking about the cottage.
I know, but I'm talking about the
Yeah,
house.
well, that's interesting about the main house, that she was renting out the apartment upstairs,
Right.
naturally. And I gather that a contractor bought it and he fixed it up quite a bit.
Yeah, she was very impressed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was a nice building, nice house.
Yeah, Dick and Pete though built this stairway, and he said, much aggravation as they did it, you know, to get.
You know,
it
building a
positioned.
stairway is not the easiest thing. in the
No, it
world.
sure isn't. In fact, I didn't even know about that.
So you were the one with Pete doing that? You built
Yeah.
the staircase?
Yeah.
Mhm.
How did that go? Was
Not well.
you just were there holding nails, or
No,
No,
what
no,
did you
no.
do?
But
They would have provided a lot of
you're trying to get all the
firewood for
stairs to be
Justin's
the
fire
exact
pit.
same distance and all. And
Oh, I'm really amazed about that. I didn't even know about it.
yeah, you were probably busy with something else.
I was busy, all right.
We had the four kids upstairs in the bedroom that was like the back part of that upstairs, and then the other part was like a playroom.
Ah,
And that was where Paul,
How long did you live there?
about a year, a little more than a year after we
Uh-huh.
were married, but Paul found something that was like an extension cord with nothing on the other end, and he plugs it in and.
Oh. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know how he got a hold of it, but he.
Could have burned the house down.
He could have electrocuted
Or
himself.
electrocuted himself, yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Well, he wasn't ever known for caution.
No, he was not.
Oh, boy.
But
Very
we managed, I said it was.
funny when you talk about all these stories, you hear stuff that you didn't even know about, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the total news to me.
Yeah, we moved 3 weeks after Justin was born. We moved up to Morton Grove.
Ah,
But we used to have those family gatherings in the backyard every summer weekend too, remember?
Yeah, with Jane and Don, and I remember Carrie leaning over the graduation cake. and
Yep.
putting her
I
hand right
remember
in the
that.
middle of it.
I don't know why I remember that, but I remember
Ah,
that.
that was priceless, yes.
You remember us, Dick, you and I looking for a house for Don when he got back from France?
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember that? Well, Don and Jane were coming back from France and Don
Oh.
contacted us to find a house in Glenview for him.
Yeah,
And
okay.
we looked all over Glenview and we found this house.
Yeah, I can.
And Jane was not happy with our,
I can't remember what street that was on.
I can't either, Dick.
But
thought
I
they moved
remember
back
how
to
Board
it
your
toward the
was.
middle of town.
Yeah, I remember.
I thought they moved into your house.
No,
Didn't remember anything between.
they moved in my house when they got married,
Yeah.
but then they went to
Oh,
France.
okay, yeah,
And they sold that house,
okay.
and then when they came back from France, they didn't have a place to live.
Oh.
So Don contacted us to find him a place in Glenview.
How bad was the house?
Well, it wasn't bad at all, it was just not what you
I could
what you
picture
wanted.
where it was. It was just off of Waukegan Road, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
About a block or so.
There's nothing wrong with the house, it's just
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was south of McDonald's, south of the train tracks there,
It was,
wasn't it?
I could,
No, I think
I
it was
think
north of
I
that.
could probably drive to it.
north of McDonald's, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was when Don was in school out east, wasn't he, in a business training
I
school?
think he went to Yale.
Yeah,
For a 3-month
they were Harvard.
deal,
Or
yeah.
Harvard.
He went to Harvard?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a business
He went-
segment that they
yeah.
do at Harvard.
Okay.
And, you know, I think it was 3 or 4 months that he was
Yeah.
like intensive. And
Yeah, it was like
was
a
there.
mini MBA.
Yeah, and of course she was here with the 2 little ones, and they were in a nursery school there.
Hmm.
And shortly after he got finished with that course, then they moved east and they bought the house, their first house in
That's
Connecticut.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
Greenwich,
So they didn't move to.
They didn't stay there too long,
yeah.
maybe,
Because he was moved to the New York
maybe
office.
a year or so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
When did they buy the house in Greenwich?
They bought a smaller house in Darien, Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
And I think Carrie lives in Darien, Connecticut now.
Yeah. She's in
And,
New Canaan.
then, I don't know, both Don and Jane they were house hunting and they found this house in a very, very nice neighborhood in Greenwich. But it was a pretty old house and it was right near the Sound. And very prestigious neighborhood, but it was not, it was an older house. I think it started out as a summer cottage.
Yeah, it needed a lot of work.
Yeah. And, boy, they transformed that place into just a beautiful, beautiful house. And,
But I don't know that they had the foresight that they did when they bought their Vermont place. When they bought the Vermont place, they hired an architect to work with them
Yeah.
and get it right. Where when they moved to New Canaan, they had ideas of what they could do, but a lot of times they would do something and then sort of have to undo it to do the next phase.
Yeah.
You know,
Uh-huh.
they really needed an architect's
Right.
view of what you do incrementally.
yeah, Dan was
Yeah.
Dan was his father's son.
Yeah. It was interesting.
I remember staying at that house when I was about 15, when
Mhm.
Jaws had just come out, as a matter of fact. And I stayed in that front room in their house upstairs.
Carrie's bedroom.
Mhm.
And
There's
it
a
was the
slanted
first time,
floor.
the slanted floor. And I remember thinking, how could they live with a floor that goes down like this?
Yeah.
I mean, you wake up in the morning and you go right to the window.
Yeah.
But it was just character.
Yeah, you go to an older house in England and the floors go all over the place.
Yeah.
Kate, I
Oh, you've
remember
been there.
Kate and I were in an old inn in Burford in the Cotswolds in England. First time we went to England. And boy, everything was crooked in that house, but it was charming. you know.
Charming, yes.
That's the word, charming. Oh dear. I remember when Jane and Don moved to Paris, and it was, let me see, I guess it was, yeah,
In the
just
early
after you were
60s.
born, because they got married just after you were born. And Jane, of course, loved the fact that they had all this fashion stuff in
Mhm.
Paris, but they didn't do undergarments the way the Americans did, bras and girdles. Of course, everybody wore a girdle, and they didn't do that in Paris. So when Dawn would come back, she'd let me know what she needed, and I'd go over to Old Orchard and buy some girdles and some bras in the size she wanted, and send them along. And Don said if they had ever opened his luggage.
That's funny. I don't think I ever heard that story.
That was it, yeah. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Oh my God. Well, we loved meeting, really, I feel like we were meeting Carrie and Matt for the first time when they came to our house in Morton Grove. And I remember thinking how funny Matt was.
Oh.
Oh my God, he was such a funny kid.
Yeah.
A good sense of humor.
How old was he at that time?
I don't know. When did they come?
Was it, you mean they
65?
first got back?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how
It
old.
probably was when they first got back.
67 maybe?
Yeah, well, he was about 5, I think.
Well,
Or no, maybe they were there 5 years.
Carrie-
so he'd been born.
Carrie
in
is
the
6
States.
months younger than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would have been
Yeah.
5 or 6.
As I said, my first recollection of him coming back like that was when he said, "Ooh la la."
I remember the time.
Hello.
I'm gonna